Thank you to the whistleblower responsible for this letter. I will read it to you almost in its entirety, but will also share the document for you to read the timeline and evidence for yourself, which I will skip. This letter was just sent to Congress today. Keep an eye on how they respond, as I'm positive there will be more to come. Dear Mr. Speaker and respective members, I submit this document as a whistleblower and affirmatively request appropriate whistleblower protection. This document is being offered to the appropriate oversight entities for the purpose of making allegations of misconduct and to provide evidence of malfeasance and other improper conduct at the highest levels of the United States Capitol Police and within the USCP Office of the Inspector General. These include allegations of criminal and grossly unethical conduct. The goal in writing this document is to present allegations and overwhelming evidence of unethical and illegal conduct sufficient to allow the United States Congress to investigate and corroborate these allegations. Ultimately, this will initiate the essential reform needed within USCP leadership, OIG, legal offices, and oversight entities. I hope the implementation of this reform will start with a public admission of guilt, an apology by the USCP chief, and an appropriate settlement for all victims of sustained misconduct. Here are the allegations. 1. Chief J. Thomas Manger and other members of the USCP have and continue to retaliate against January 6th USCP whistleblowers and obstructed U.S. Congress's rightful oversight of the USCP. 2. The OIG conducted a fraudulent investigation of USCP whistleblowers and created a fraudulent report on the retaliation to deceive the Congress and to conceal criminal and inappropriate actions they committed, along with that of executive-level members of the USCP. 3. Chief Manger utilized his manufactured OIG report to support a false public narrative. 4. The IG was encouraged to retire for violating the law for failing to protect USCP whistleblowers and exposing their identities to USCP senior leaders, which directly triggered retaliation. The compromised OIG then conducted a sham investigation and created a false report on these whistleblowers to cover up all parties' unlawful violations of regulations and law. 5. The USCP executive team, USCP's Office of General Counsel, with the U.S. Capitol Police Board, approved the unmistakably false OIG report. 6. The USCP leadership and legal team utilized the fraudulent investigation and respected independence of the OIG to literally gaslight the whistleblowers, challenging their mental health for believing any retaliation was occurring against them. 7. The impact to USCP whistleblowers significantly altered their and their families' lives. 8. Chief Manger, OGC, the USCP executive team, and each member of the United States Capitol Police Board personally failed to protect USCP whistleblowers by their actions and inactions when personally notified and failed oversight. 9. On July 26, 2023, Chief Manger, under oath, provided overtly fraudulent testimony to a joint congressional hearing, the Senate Rules Committee and the Committee on House Administration. 10. Chief Manger's subsequent untruthful testimony to Congress on July 26, 2023 was made with the United States Capitol Police Board. 11. The U.S. Capitol Police Board is overtly incapable or unwilling to conduct the necessary oversight of the USCP, and at worst, some members of the U.S. Capitol Police Board were complicit in the retaliation against USCP whistleblowers. The last allegation is supported by an analysis of many other OIG reports that include topics related to January 6th and the surveillance of members of Congress. The analysis of these OIG reports and supporting documents will be released in subsequent reports for review and dissection. Here are more allegations. Almost every USCP official and officer is aware of the retaliation policy as it comes from the rules of conduct, which is the most important policy and only policy used to charge offenses. It is signed by the chief of police and impossible that the chief, the OGC, who reviews all policy, the United States Capitol Police Board, and the OIG are unaware that this policy exists. Members of the USCP intelligence team filed a multitude of complaints and offered evidence in internal and external investigations. This was all in reference to the USCP intelligence leaders failing to share critical intelligence information leading up to January 6th. Subsequently, these analysts were targeted by the USCP intelligence leaders and the USCP leadership, to include the chief of police. These analysts made countless complaints for retaliation for complaining and offering evidence in these internal and external investigations, yet they were never truly investigated. The USCP violated so many aspects of the PCS policy to terminate or force employees out that a senior level manager in the Office of Human Resources called them prior and advised that they should get lawyers because the agency was planning to fire them. The OIG, under direction of the Chief of Police and the U.S. Capitol Police Board, investigated the complaints of retaliation, specifically to include PECS, by analysts as exclusively allegations of sexual harassment and discrimination, racial and other legally protected classes only. The real violations of retaliation and PECS were never investigated and dismissed by the OIG, just like his legal requirement to protect whistleblowers. The chief and the intelligence leadership were never investigated for the rule they undoubtedly violated, Rule C-11 for retaliation. The reason for all of this is simple. The chief, the OGC, the OIG, and the intelligence leaders violated and continue to violate the retaliation policy. The chief could never inform Congress that the retaliation policy even exists. Clearly, this is lying by omission. Lying that there is a policy failure is much easier to explain than why he and his entire executive team authorized an obviously false and inaccurate report to be submitted to the U.S. Congress. The tactic of not investigating the policies that are violated to cover up failures and hide the truth from U.S. Congress is not limited to this OIG report. It is reflected in the multitude of every Inspector General report I possess, to include many related to January 6th and the surveillance of members of Congress. It is my intent to release these OIG reports in subsequent documents with the evidence to reveal to the U.S. Congress that USCP leadership, the OGC, the U.S. Capitol Police Board, and the OIG were engaged in systematic behavior to deceive the U.S. Congress on a plethora of critical issues related to January 6th and their surveillance of members of Congress. I respectfully request the allegations made in this document, specifically related to whistleblower retaliation by Chief Manger, current and former members of the USCP, the OGC, and the United States Capitol Police Board and the OIG are thoroughly investigated by an independent entity. Specifically, all the appropriate charges of USCP policy, the law, and the various code of ethics, and every single complaint are thoroughly reviewed and examined. Also, I request the U.S. Congress consider an overhaul of USCP leadership, the OIG, and the entirety of the current oversight process of the agency to ensure and stop these tactics and professionalization of the department. Finally, and most important to me, is I respectfully request that the U.S. Congress consider the repeated and continued unethical actions that these USCP whistleblowers endured in their efforts to get the truth out about January 6 intelligence failures to the OIG and the U.S. Congress. Their plight is extraordinary, especially considering the chief and the United States Capitol Police Board purport their devotion to protecting whistleblowers in public, but never offer any protection to the whistleblowers in their charge. The lives of these 15 employees and families were forever changed by malicious actors within the USCP trying to prevent the truth about the January 6th intelligence failures from coming out. Very respectfully signed, retired USCP Deputy Chief. Please help share this video and letter so we can gain enough awareness to push for action on this matter. Thanks for listening.